You know, one of the odd things about being in Washington the last few years, you two know this better than I do, is that everybody is in favor of tax reform, and certainly at least corporate tax reform, but it never happens. And we never even have gotten close. The question, obviously, then, for each of you is, what are the chances that we get something done on corporate tax reform? Probably not this year, but next year. And Kyrsten, let me just start with you.
Well, I think it's realistic to assume that we will not see any kind of major tax reform on any issue this year. This year has become the most unusual and unpredictable political year of my lifetime. Someone chuckled.
Several lifetimes,
right?
Why not? Why stop there?
Other people are drinking, but you know, this year has just really, again, so completely unpredictable. And that means that in Congress, we're just trying to make our way through. I think many members are worried about their own districts and worried about their own elections in an unpredictable year. And of course, we've got a new speaker, Mr. Ryan, who's deeply committed to tax reform, but who is spending all of his time managing a sometimes unruly conference and is working hard to just try and make it day to day. So I think it's very unlikely you see anything this year. Next year is too hard to predict. We don't know who's going to be in Congress. We don't know who's going to control the Senate, and we don't know who's going to be the president. But I do think that in the House, at least, you'll see the conversation turn back towards comprehensive tax reform because there is a hunger in both parties to make that reform happen. And with a speaker like Paul Ryan, who worked his whole career to get to the Ways and Means Committee to do tax reform, to only then be snookered into becoming the speaker, the worst job in the country, I know that's something he wants to get back to. Whether or not we'll have the numbers to be able to do it, I think it's too early to predict.
Steve?
So on tax reform, I actually am a little more optimistic. You know, since I was here last year, we did two things that are meaningful. We passed a 6-year transportation bill that allows folks to continue to grow and build and repair our infrastructure. And we did tax extenders for 2 years, which includes 179 business depreciation and a whole bunch of other things that a lot of people cared about to create a little bit of certainty. That was a tiny thing compared to tax reform. I think we will pass tax reform out of the House this year, but I don't think it'll go anywhere in the Senate, so I don't think it will get enacted, but that will be a good opening act for next year, regardless of who's president. And frankly, like you said, everybody's for corporate tax reform. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, and we have a difficult system to understand that makes foreign investment in our companies less likely. It makes it easier for our companies to try to do corporate inversion, to try to save money. It's not like you have to go far away. You don't have to go to Ireland, which has a 7.5% or 8% effective tax rate. You can go to the 51st state, Canada, and get a 15% corporate tax rate. Yeah. That's why, you know, Tim Hortons is such a hot commodity, whether it's, you know, Burger King or anybody else that was interested in Tim Hortons, because they can move the headquarters just across the border, have a 15% effective tax rate, cut their tax by more than half, and that's pretty meaningful. So we've got to figure out how to get something done. We will have a blueprint unleashed or unveiled next week, and then I think we'll pass it in the House. I actually believe, unlike the plan that Chairman Camp put forward, the blueprint that he did, I think we'll actually pass something, and then that'll be a good starting point for next year. And regardless of who's elected, we've got to deal with this. I believe we've got to not only deal with C Corps, but pass-throughs. More than half our businesses are pass-throughs. A lot of middle market companies are pass-throughs. And we've got to figure out how to deal with both.